The Broad Street Bullcast is brought to you by WellCheck. WellCheck is a platform that offers daily wellness screening, vaccination verification, and a testing upload tool to verify negative COVID 19 test results, ensuring the health and safety of your organization and guests. Visit wellcheck.us for more information and to schedule a demo today. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of our Broad Street Bullcast. I'm Sam Carchidi, and there were a lot of developments during the week since the last time we talked. The big news, of course, was John Tortorella was named the Philadelphia Flyers' 23rd coach, and Torts is going to light a fire, I think, under these Flyers. I did a story for Philly Hockey Now the other day, and there was a mixed reaction from the fans. Some think that he will turn things around. Some people think that, hey, this is just another in a long line of coaches that we've gone through, and the Flyers will tune them out after 2 or 3 years. We'll see how that works out. But John Tortorella is the 7th Flyers coach in the last 9 years, and I think that tells you that it's the talent level on the Flyers, not the coaches, that is what has to be changed, really. So Chuck Fletcher, the Flyers general manager, has a big summer ahead of him. He does not have a lot of cap space. Flyers have only $5.1 million in cap space right now. So Chuck Fletcher is going to have to work some miracles. That $5.1 million is only to 18 players. And, of course, most teams carry 23. Some carry 22. So when you add those other players, the Flyers are right at the cap. And he's going to have to dump salary, whether it's in trades, whether it's in buyouts. And he's got a lot of work to do to get the roster that John Tortorella wants in here. I think it's a very good first step for the Flyers to get Tortorella. To me, my first choice would have been Barry Trotz, the great coach, who to me was 1A. But if he is 1A, Torts is 1B. They're very close. Tortorella is a great step for the Flyers. He brings credibility. He brings accountability. And I loved his presser the other day. His introduction to the Flyers was in a Zoom call. That's the age we live in. And Torts was at his home in New York, sitting in front of a piano that his wife plays, not him. But it was just interesting to hear his comments. And to me, he showed a lot of humility. That surprised me. You know, we know the fiery Tortorella who's gotten arguments with his players, with the media, with other coaches, with other teams. But he was very humble. He said all the right things. He was very honest. And he was genuinely excited. And it wasn't just lip service. He revealed that it's been almost 20 years that he's thought about becoming a Flyers coach someday. And that surprised me. And he said every time he came to the Wells Fargo Center, he thought, these fans are very rabid. These fans have so much passion. He loved that about Philadelphia. He loves the city. So, I think it's going to be a good fit, the city and Tortorella. He also has a comfort level with one of the Flyers' top players. Cam Atkinson, of course, was a Flyers MVP last year, right winger. And he played for Tortorella for about 5 seasons in Columbus. And Tortorella says he's going to lean on Cam for some information and to learn about some of the players. And much like when the Flyers hired Alain Vigneault, they went out and got Kevin Hayes. And, of course, those two were together with the New York Rangers. And that gave AV some comfortability, if you will, with the whole team. And so that's interesting. And I'm also wondering if Tortorella, to get even more comfortable, will try to persuade the Flyers GM, Chuck Fletcher, to go after some of his former players. Maybe a Josh Anderson, who is a big right winger and would really fit in. The Flyers have some good depth at right wing, so I'm not sure they would go after him. And to be honest, I'm not sure if he can play the left side, but they can move some right wingers to the left side if, in fact, they do make a play for him. But I wrote down a half a dozen talking points about the hire, and first one is Tortorella, without question, right now, without Claude Giroux here, Tortorella is the face of this franchise. That's a positive step because, to tell you the truth, towards the end of the year with Giroux gone, Gritty was the face of this franchise, and that's kind of sad in a way because you want the players to be the face of the franchise. So Tortorella is the face of the franchise. Uh, that's a pretty good thing, but the best thing is to have the players. Your team is so good that you have the players be the face of the franchise. If you look at Tampa Bay, John Cooper, he certainly is not the face of the franchise. You look at Jared Bednar of Colorado. Of course, those two teams in the Stanley Cup final. He is not the face of the Avalanche. So you want the players. Those teams have star players, and that's who you want to identify with. That's who the fans want to identify with, and we'll see how that goes. So Chuck Fletcher, has, as I said, has a big summer ahead of him, and I think they want to bring some players in here. Whether it's a Johnny Gaudreau or Kadri or somebody else, and let the focus be on the players, not on the coach, and certainly not on Gritty. No offense to Gritty, he does a great job, but for him to be the most identifiable, quote unquote, person on the team, that's not what you want to have. Another talking point, number 2, hiring assistants. That's going to be a key. Tortorella talked about number 1 priority being the power play coach. As you know, the Flyers' power play was awful last year, 12.6%, if you can believe that. That was their success rate. That was the second lowest in franchise history. He also said that he wants Carter Hart to have more protection in front of him. And I think you're going to see some defensive changes. You're going to see a change in philosophy. Hart saw too many shots, too many quality shots. He saw a lot of shots from the center of the ice. Tortorella wants to keep things to the outside, and so we'll see if that works. I mean that on paper looks good, but you have to have the personnel to do that. Number 3, third talking point with Torts. He's going to meet with players. He's already met with some players. He's talked with Kevin Hayes. He's obviously talked to Cam Atkinson. In the near future, he's going to talk to Ryan Ellis. Some of these interviews, some of these one-on-ones will be in person. Some of them, like with Carter Hart, who lives outside of Edmonton, will just be on the phone. But I thought it was very interesting. Tortorella says he wants to talk to these players. He wants to get a feel for them, not only as players, but as individuals. What makes them tick? Not on the ice, off the ice. What are some of their hobbies? I mean, it may sound kind of corny, but I think it's great that he wants to invest the time to get to know the people, know what gets them excited, know what they do in their spare time, know about their families, know about their kids. And so that's number 3. That's on his to-do list, to talk to as many Flyers as he can in the upcoming weeks. Number 4 on the to-do list, naming a captain. That's not going to happen until training camp, maybe even after training camp. There are a lot of great candidates. I mentioned Cam Atkinson. He's certainly a candidate. Sean Couturier, to me, is the number 1 candidate just because he's been here for so long. But I like Coots as a leader. And the thing I like about Couturier is that, when he's talking to the media, he's not politically correct. He'll talk about the weaknesses. He'll talk about what needs to be overcome. He'll talk about what needs to be improved. And he'll do that not insulting his teammates, not insulting the coaching staff. He does it in a professional way. And, his play on the ice speaks volumes. So Couturier, to me, he's been here for such a long time. I think he's the number 1 candidate. Cam Atkinson is number 2 in my book anyway. And this isn't any insider, anybody from the Flyers front office talking about this. This is just my view from observing the players and talking to players. I would say Scott Lawton would be on that short list, and probably Kevin Hayes. So the other thing is, I just want to play devil's advocate. This is my 5th point, talking about Torts. As I said, this is the 7th coach in 9 years. Alain Vigneault, who of course coached at the beginning of last year, coached here for 2+ seasons, had the same resume, same type of resume as Tortorella. Everything is the same. In fact, he had a higher winning percentage than Torts. The only thing he didn't have was a Stanley Cup championship. He got a couple teams to the finals, but never won the Cup as Torts did in Tampa Bay. in 2004. But my point is it the coach? And I'm trying to reinforce what I said earlier. Uh, you look at AV, great coach, one of the winningest coaches in NHL history, and he couldn't get it done here. So is Tortorella going to have the same fate? I think he will if the Flyers don't get younger. They don't improve their farm system. They don't improve the talent level. So at this point, it's not the coach, and I think Chuck Fletcher realizes that, and I think you're going to see a lot of changes in the offseason as much as you can when you're up against the cap. Sixth talking point here is for Tortorella. After he talks to his players, the next order of business is the July 7th and 8th draft. As you know, the Flyers have the number 5 pick. Torts will be in the conversation with the scouts for, what he likes, the type of player he likes. After that, we have free agency. And also, maybe he will not have the assistant coaches picked by then. Maybe he'll have one, maybe he'll have two. As I mentioned earlier, the number one hire, the most important hire, is the power play coach. Do you go out and go after Joey Mullen, who now, believe it or not, is coaching in a 3-on-3 league, which is just starting up? It's a new league, and John LeClaire, the great former Flyer, is also coaching there. But Joey Mullen, to me, if you look at his past track record, he was here for 9 years. 7 of those 9 years, the Flyers were in the top 10 on the power play. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, 5 of those years they were in the top 5. So Joey Mullen, I think he deserves a lot of consideration. But they're the things that will be settled. And before you know it, we'll have training camp in September. It's going to be a busy summer. It's going to be an interesting summer. And it's going to be an interesting season with John Tortorella here, that's for sure. And there will be no shortcuts for these Flyers. And again, John Tortorella is the coach. We do not have his assistants yet. We do not know who the captain is yet. But we're going to have a lot to talk about in the coming weeks and months before we head into training camp. And we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to answer questions from fans. We had a lot of great questions again. But stay tuned, and we're going to listen to, I'm going to take some questions from fans on Twitter, and we appreciate you watching our Flyers podcast. Broad Street Bullcast is brought to you by WellCheck. WellCheck is the only all-in-one critical event management and verification platform. Visit wellcheck.us for more information and to schedule a demo today. Welcome back to the mailbag portion of our Broad Street Bullcast, and I want to thank all the people that submitted questions on Twitter. We had so many questions, so many great questions, and this would be an hour and a half podcast if we answer them all. But I want to thank you. I appreciate all the submissions. We'll get right into it. The first one is from Angelo Fiamoro. He asked, "Is Johnny Gaudreau a Torts type player?" He implied that he was not a Torts type player. And Angela, let me just say this. If Johnny Gaudreau has close to the season he had this year, he scored 40 goals, had, I believe, 114 points, career year for him. Let's just say he scores 30 to 40 goals. He will be a John Tortorella type player. I don't think Torts would mind if he got that kind of production. The Flyers certainly wouldn't mind. And for those who don't know, Gaudreau, of course, is a South Jersey product, and he's an unrestricted free agent, and he'll probably cost at least $9 million, maybe 10, and the Flyers are going to have to free some cap space if they got him. And that leads us into the second question, and Johnny Gaudreau is part of that one as well. Another Angelo Masso, asks, if you were the Flyers, would you prefer to back up the Brinks truck for Alex DeBrincat of the Chicago Blackhawks? Or would you go for Johnny Gaudreau in free agency? Now, DeBrincat you'd have to get in a trade. He's a left winger who has had tremendous seasons. He's about 5'7", maybe 165 pounds, had 41 goals this year. He and Gaudreau are both proving that there's a place for the young player. DeBrincat is 24 years old. Again, you have to trade for him. It's different than Gaudreau, who you could sign as a UFA. DeBrincat, 24. He has 1 year left, and he'll become a restricted free agent. The Blackhawks, according to reports, want a top player. They want a high draft pick, so I'm assuming a number one pick, and they want a player who is a very good prospect. So let's go to the Flyers. Do you trade them Ivan Provorov? He's a top player, a very good player, not a great player, a very good player. A number one pick. Certainly you're not going to trade a number one pick next year. 2023 is going to be a great year for the draft. I don't think you trade the number 5 pick this year, the number 5 overall pick, maybe in 2025. And then you have to give up a prospect. Maybe you give up an Igor Zamula. To me, that's too much. If you can maybe give them a second round pick, maybe I do that. But again, you're going to have to find a way to sign DeBrincat after next year, and he could go somewhere else. And then what do you have? Now Goudreau, I'm assuming it's going to be a long-term deal. Again, probably $9 million minimum. That's with a hometown discount. So it's a tough question. It's not something you can say, I'd rather do this, rather do that, without knowing, which players would be involved. They certainly would both be great players for the Flyers. If you could agree to a long-term contract with DeBrincat, before making the trade, then that makes things a lot more interesting and makes him probably more attractive because he is only 24 years old. He's basically 5 years younger than Johnny Gaudreau. Gaudreau's 28 right now, but he'll turn 29 before the season. But good question, Angelo. The next question, Chris, he congratulates Zach Hill, and he says, who is the poor soul who is replacing Zach Hill? Judging by the outpouring of support, he's going to have some big shoes to fill. Zach is a tremendous person. For those who don't know, he's been the Flyers public relations director for 29 years. Before that, he was with the Sixers. I've been in this business for close to 50 years. Zach Hill is the best public relations director that I've ever dealt with. Some public relations directors feel like their job is to run interference for the media. Zach was never like that. He was getting the message out. And as Chuck Fletcher said the other day, no request was too big, no request was too small. You could be from a small paper, you could be from a big paper, you could be from a big media outlet, small media outlet. He treated everybody the same, and he went 110% for everybody. He's being replaced by Joe Seville, another great guy in the public relations department. He's being promoted. He's got big shoes to fill. I just want to congratulate Zach Hill, and I want to thank Chris for asking that question because it gave me a chance to talk about Zach. Just a great human being. And we wish him the best in retirement. And we're going to miss him. He's still going to be around as a consultant for a year. He'll be in and out. And I know he's going to the draft in July. So best of luck, Zach. You are the best. No question about it. We'll now go to a question from James Crozier. Like that first name, just like my grandson. Which players are Torts-type players? And which players will have to adapt the most because of his style? It's interesting. I asked Torts today. We had a meet and greet with him in Voorhees, and I asked him today that same question. What is a John Tortorella type player? What do you look for in a player? He has a reputation for wanting gritty players. He loves gritty players, and he said, "You know what? I've been pigeonholed with that. I'm not just for gritty players. Yes, I love gritty players. I love third and fourth line players, and to me, they're easier to coach. The third and fourth line guys are always hungry. They're easier to coach than the first and second liners." He said, that said, he loves the top line players as well, and he says what he likes to do, he likes to get the top 6 players, top 6 forwards, to incorporate into their game what he gets from the third and fourth liners. In other words, he wants to get more grit out of them. He wants the first and second line players to get dirty goals. He wants them banging in front of the net. He doesn't want them just skating freely and taking shots from the wing. He wants them to incorporate, what he gets from the third and fourth liners. By the same token, he wants his third and fourth liners to incorporate what the top 6 guys give him, and he wants them to chip in with some goals and not just be one-dimensional. I thought that was a great answer, and I think that you'll see that spread out more. Maybe you'll get more production from the third line. Maybe you'll get 16, 18 goals from a third line center. That's the goal. But anyway, he says it's a misconception that he only likes that you're going to have a team of muckers and grinders, and that's not the way it's going to be. And yeah, Torts was right on, I thought, with that comment, and you need that. You need the production from your bottom six. As maybe you're not going to get as much production as you get in the top six, but they're going to contribute in other ways. Next question from Mike Evangelisi. He said, is the number 5 pick, which the Flyers have, being traded or kept? That's the $1 million question. Chuck Fletcher will not give a hint either way, but I am told that the pick is in play. Whether they move ahead and try to get maybe the number 2 pick. We talked about this a little bit last week on the podcast. The Jersey Devils have that pick in play. I think if you can trade an Ivan Provorov and get a Slafkovsky, who is a big left winger, close to NHL ready, I think the Flyers might pull the trigger on that. As far as trading down, it's tough because if you trade down, you don't know what's going to be there. Let's just say they trade down to 11. Is a Matt Savoy going to be there at 11? If you had a crystal ball and knew Matt Savoy was going to be there at 10 or 11, I think you definitely do that because then you add in the trade, you get a second round pick in addition to getting that first round pick later in the opening round. So that's a tough decision for Chuck Fletcher. The odds are, I talked to some other people connected with the Flyers in the draft. They said the odds are we will keep that pick. But we're certainly, listening and considering everything. When you've had such a miserable season as the Flyers had, you have to listen to everything. And again, Savoy would be my pick at number 5. The Flyers, though, as of last week, we're not really entertaining that. My guess is they go for left winger Cutter Gauthier. Again, we talked about him a little bit. He's a big left winger. He plays good defense. He's got a great shot. But we'll see how it plays all out. My guess is they keep the number 5 pick just because it's so difficult to get everything in line up to make a trade, whether it's going up or down. And we'll see. Again, the draft, July 7th and 8th in Montreal. It should be fascinating, especially for the Flyers, who have the number 5 pick. And that's going to conclude episode 2 of our Broad Street Bullcast. I want to thank everybody for watching or listening. I want to thank my great son, Sam, who is a producer and does a great job. As I said last week, he knows more about sports than anybody in this room, that's for sure. And as the late, great Gene Hart used to say, good night and good hockey.